Into recording?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. So, Lori, you have announcements.
It's a no, not really. I just was going to say I just had a little message from David Lee saying that he's outside with his telescope trying to track down trick-or-treaters. And and he said if he doesn't get very many people, he's going to come back in online. So
I am going to wait until we can actually see some craters. Right now, it's just a fuzzy semicircle.
yeah, it's not very good.
Does anybody else have a better view?
Nope.
I mean, it's out. That's better than. I was so worried we were going to be rained, but I'm almost here 30 years, and not once have the trick-or-treaters been rained on. Not once. It's been close. It's been very close, but my kids never had to wear a raincoat.
Well, as I said earlier, I used to do it annually out in front of my house in Edmonton, and the moon, when it was available, is great, but I've had them look at Jupiter and Saturn, and you certainly get a lot of oohs and ahs when you first show them Saturn.
Yeah. Anyway, I will certainly take a look after we finish. Anybody want to talk or give an announcement? Or
I still have got a few calendars that are going to be for the taking. If people would like to put their name down, I still have a few left.
Joe, can you show off your calendar? You're muted.
I can do that if you want to. I don't want to sabotage Lori's sales.
Well, it's a different thing, but I loved your calendar last year.
Good.
I just put all of my astronomy calendars next to each other in my office.
Well, we have so much talent in our group. It's pretty easy to put a calendar together. It's actually difficult because there's so many choices. Getting it down to 13 photos is pretty tough.
I think you should do a little demonstration of that.
Okay, I'll tee it up.
And Chris, are you able to tell us about Webb, Hubble, DART, anything fun?
Oh, I guess I could say a couple of things.
And I'm going to talk about crater timing for next week. Okay, and Leslie is upside down. That's very difficult. Okay, I say we start with Joe, and then Chris, and then me.
Okay, let's see if I can share. Haven't done a share in a while. Here we go. So, basically, I'd encourage everyone to go on to our photo hosting website and do a browse of our wonderful, talented people that do astrophotography and sketching and stuff like that. So last year I put a limited run of calendars together based on Victoria Center's members' imagery, and Brock got the cover this year, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because the cover, of course, people immediately flip up to January. So except for oohing and awing when you get your calendar, then it remains hidden the whole year, which is a shame, because Dark Shark Nebula is something I'd never heard of before. And Brock did it justice, that's for sure. And being a spooky night tonight, this is a perfect time to highlight Dark Shark Nebula. So the first month of January, I'll zoom in on the photograph, I guess. I can. Yep, that's better. It's a combination of planets. So David Lee's is on the bottom where he documented the 4-degree conjunction between Jupiter and the moon in August. And Brock bought a new planetary imager this year and he's been putting it to good use. So I put his 2 images on the top of this page, making it a planetary page for January. Ken is really coming on strong with beautiful images, and I have to apologize to him for flipping his image on the sideways, but I have to do that in order to get it onto a calendar. Otherwise, I'd have to crop it. So Elephant Trunk Nebula is there's some good coloring here and good detail. And as you can see, the stars are all sharp. Good tracking. We don't want to ignore the sketchers in the crowd and supernova. The supernova in NGC 4647 was documented by Bill back in April with a sketch. There's the supernova right there. And this actually is a cropped image that Dan, it was quite a wide image, so I had to reformat it for the calendar as well. But the Plasket is an amazing instrument, and Dan knows how to get all the glory out of it based on our nights, that observing nights that we are given by the NRC. So I don't think we have any members attending who are new, but maybe that's something we should promote a little more to people, because there are observing nights on the Plasket, private nights, just for members. And Dan hosts them and live streams them. Nathan's did this sketch. I don't know what it is. A sketch. He doesn't give us any narrative as to what it is. Obviously, it's Saturn's rings, but I don't know the backstory to it, I guess is what I'm saying. But it's beautifully done.
I think it was a school assignment.
Okay. I cheated a little on this one, even though it's in the 2022 calendar. It was actually just December 25th when I took this photograph, 2021. I always, when I make these calendars, I always look back to December, because there might be something very interesting happening in December and it otherwise gets missed when we when I put this calendar together. So I always have a peek at December. You just never know what's going to happen, what is actually important happening in, astronomically speaking, in December. So Comet Leonard was a spectacular comet, and this was imaged using the SLU telescopes in Chile.
Can you explain it a bit? It doesn't have the normal comet structure, it looks like.
Oh, it does. It has all these various colors in here, indicating the the material being thrown off the comet, and the different colors. Of course, some of the colors, there's no, because this is a close-up, you're not going to see the ion tail here, but you do, this obviously is a close-up of the head. There's lots going on in the head that I don't understand. I wouldn't want to attempt to explain it, but it's a beautiful rendition. Lots of different types of actions going on here as the comet screams through space and the sun assaults it. Mike Nash, we don't hear much from him, but he is a dedicated lunar imager, and he took this with some new gear that he had acquired just in the springtime, and he was getting amazing images from his new high-end refractor.
Can I say this is one of my favorite views? Those 4 craters is called the Great Eastern Chain. Or
these
in
4 here?
Yeah, in the Explore the Moon, they call it the Gang of 4. I don't like that. Great Eastern Chain is better. But they have great names. It's Langrenus, Vendelinus, Petruvius. Oh, Lordy. And the 4th one. It's poetry.
Yeah, personally,
But
I'm more
they're
drawn
the
to this
details, like there's
crater.
that,
Yeah.
there's a spoke in Petavius. Yeah, you're pointing at it, and it's not easy to see. And Mike got it.
Furnarius. Furnarius.
Furnarius, that's it.
Yeah. So lots to admire in this calendar, for sure. And we're only halfway through the month. Ron Fisher is a member from Qualicum who is absolutely thrilled with the astrophotography SIG and getting good advice, and he's just having a ball learning as he goes along. And so he tackled Gamma Cygni a little while ago and did a great job of rendering it, I think. You can have a look online on his gallery to see how he's grown with his astrophotography. Both he and Ken have really come a long way this year. Again, apologies to Brian, I had to flip this on its side. A lovely, lovely sketch of the southeast moon, as he describes it, taken way back in January. As we all know, the Terminator is a very interesting place. It's even got some color in there. It looks a bit, or is it just shades of gray? Can't tell. Did a good job. We can always depend on John for eye candy, but this particular image is quite important because this is one of the first images taken with the Victoria Centre Observatory's new gear. So this is the optical guidance system big telescope at Victoria Centre's Observatory and our new imager. And of course, the pinwheel is a lovely object to image. Lucky Bud is another member we don't often hear from, but he nailed it with Seagull Nebula. A couple of our members have imaged Seagull Nebula this year, but Lucky's version is calendar worthy because it's the most colorful. There's just as much detail in the other images, and some might prefer them, but calendars are usually eye candy. So speaking of eye candy, Dave Payne, Fox Fir and Cone Nebula and the Christmas tree cluster. And as you can see, this is, I've reserved this one for December. Fittingly, I thought. So there you go.
Where's the Christmas tree in that photo?
Good question. Cluster. He calls it a cluster.
If you turn it clockwise 90 degrees, the Christmas tree would be the green area at the top. And the fox fir would be at the bottom, or it's off to the right now.
there's a fox rug at the bottom
Yeah.
leading to the trunk, and this green is a tree. It's got lots of lights on it. And here's an angel or something at the top of the tree that you can admire as you lie on the rug and drink your eggnog.
Yeah, apologies for flipping this on its side, but again, I had to already. It was either that or crop it.
Yeah, I'm just a little worried because it seems that I'm not recognizing. I thought I knew where the Christmas tree cluster was, and I don't see it in here.
It's buried in the nebula. The bright star on the right is the stump. And where the cone is would be the very peak. You can sort of see the stars.
So this
running.
is the Christmas tree here.
Yeah, but the stars. So
This
But
star
it's-
is the trunk,
yes.
or is this the trunk?
No.
I'm fascinated with this area. I have to go back and look at a chart.
Yeah, it's all one NGC number referring to the cluster and the Foxford Nebula and the Cone Nebula and everything in between. I can look what that is.
Just fantastic.
It is.
Dave,
Yeah.
Joe, that is such a service to the community. And how do they get it?
How did
They
Joe?
just pay me $15 and wait until middle of November and you'll get one.
What I want to understand is how it is that Joe's calendar has better images than the national calendar, and why is Joe not the national calendar maker?
I was
remain
thinking the same
silent on
thing.
that issue.
As one of the people who hired the new national calendar person, all I can say is that Joe didn't put his name forward, so.
No, I'm not interested in the job personally, but it's great fun to put a local version together and just keep the circulation small and a few people get rewarded. The astrophotographers really get a kick out of seeing their images printed on a calendar. That's the main motivation for me personally.
it is such a fun endeavor because you're exploring space with your camera or your telescope if you're sketching. There's the technical aspects of what you're doing, which are interesting. There's a lot of tinkering involved. And it's fun to get together and discuss what we're doing with others. So that if anyone wants to join us,
Yeah,
please,
it's everything good with our community. So thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you.
It's intended to be a little reward actually for our astrophotographers rather than we're not competing with the national calendar. They're two different audiences completely. And as Dave mentions, most of the people who buy this limited edition calendar know all the backstories. So that's really where the joy comes. Laurie has her hand up, I think.
I was just going to say, I don't think some of our lovely astrophotographers put their work in at the national level. And so the national people would not see some of these gorgeous photos because they wouldn't be submitted. So if we want to have something like that, then you need to submit your photos.
Right.
Well, I'm so glad that you showed that off. Sorry for putting you on the spot. And now putting somebody on the spot, let's talk to Chris.
Okay, yes, I wasn't expecting to be giving a talk tonight, but there's a couple of things going on. Let me see, what am I going to put on here? Just a second. Just give me a moment. Um, okay, just a second.
There's a new date for Artemis, is that right?
November the 14th.
Yeah.
Although it actually, I think it actually might be the night of the 13th here. So, but anyway, yeah, keep an eye out for it. Just a minute. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, hopefully Artemis will be going. Actually, tomorrow there's supposed to be a Falcon Heavy launch from the Cape, and those are always fun. You know, they'll have kind of the double landing of the first stages, and those are always fun. JWST, well, you know, back in July, I think, which was roughly the last time I spoke about it. You know, it started putting out pictures. One of them, the very first one, is the one at the right in this slide here, which is kind of a deep field. Now, Hubble has taken similar images, but the Hubble deep fields would take, you know, literally days of exposure. And this one here, I think, was a matter of minutes, you know, like roughly not even an hour worth of exposure. So they're just getting started. And then JWST has been kind of looking closer in, like this image of Jupiter in the infrared. And also the work has begun on combining imagery from Webb and Hubble. You know, when I was working on my book, everybody was saying, well, we want at least 2 years of joint operation involving Webb and Hubble. And, you know, they aren't wasting any time getting going. So we're getting images put out. Most of them haven't really been studied or gone through peer review or stuff like that. But there's so much exciting stuff coming out. You know, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we saw Webb's version of the Eagle Nebula, or the kind of the inner part of the Eagle Nebula. You know, one of the great secrets of this image is basically cropping. You know, it's much more cropped than most of the images we've seen from the ground. So that was one of the reasons for its impact. And so the one at the left here is of course one of the Hubble images, and actually Hubble a few years ago produced quite a good near infrared image where you could see some of the stars going through as you see in this Webb image, which was done with the near infrared imager. But just in time for tonight, the Webb folks released this image with the mid-infrared imager. And this is different again from anything we've seen before. A lot more dust, and of course that dust is brought together in the stars that are being born in this stellar nursery. So
can you compare the near and the mid again?
The one,
and the mid is the one that's down at 4 degrees Kelvin, right?
That's right. I don't have the measurements, but yeah, I was actually going to say something else about the mid infrared. Just a second here. And this 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 was an image of Neptune that was quite striking. But I actually pulled up this because I wanted to bring this to your attention. There has been a little bit of issues with the mid-infrared instrument, and this came up, in early September when September 20th, and there hasn't been any update on this, which I'd like to think is perhaps good news. But anyway, in any piece of equipment this complicated, you're going to have little issues come up, and that's what we have here. And of course, the fact that we just saw the that spectacular image from this particular instrument is good news. But anyway, I'm kind of keeping an eye peeled on that. So anyway, I'm hoping when we get into the new year, we'll be getting a bit more coherent information. In January is when one of the major meetings of the American Astronomical Society takes place. And for example, a lot of the major image releases from Hubble took place at AAS meetings, including the original deep field and when they revealed the first pictures from the fixed up mirror and things like that. Now, as fate would have it, the AAS this coming January is taking place in Seattle, and I'm planning to be there because I want to give a paper in the historical section, which will be different from this. But anyway, it's I think the 8th to the 12th of January. So keep your eyes peeled. I would imagine that there's going to be some interesting stuff coming out, and if I happen to see anything when I'm on the scene, of course I'll be happy to share it with you. So that's kind of what I want to say right now. And just one more thing is, I want to, I'm just blown away with not only this image, but the images that our folks right here are producing on Joe's calendar and elsewhere, including I know maybe we don't have that many people putting images on the national calendar, but I know that some folks from here are contributing to Sky News and also to JRASC. So I just got my my Sky News in the mail the other day. Just while I'm talking about Sky News, Sky News has been running a little late. We were all set to send it to the printers some time ago, and the printer, in kind of a manner that got us rather upset, tried to say, well, we aren't going to print it unless you pay this massive price increase. And we decided to tell them to go chuck it, so we got it printed somewhere else. So that was the reason for the delay. And I'm no longer on the board of National anymore, but I'm still quite involved with publications and with Sky News through our editorial board at the national level. So I'm still working on stuff like that. So by the way, I just sent in today quite an article I've been working on for some months about the history of the Canadian Astronomy Data Center, which is at the DAO, and it's something you may not have heard about, but it's a very important part of the operation there. It's one of 3 places on Earth where you have a complete store of data from Hubble, and of course it also is a repository for data from JWST and other places. And when they set that thing up, starting in the 80s, it actually had an important role in the establishment of the internet in Canada, because you know, setting things up like the internet, you know, it's just not, oh, they do it in the States, let's plug things in here. It was a bit more complicated than that. So anyway, I think it's going to be in the February journal. So that'll be a bit of local history that I've been working on. So I think I'll just be quiet there now, unless you have some questions for me.
There's a very interesting display of the 2 infrared pictures on the BBC site that allows you, they're overlaid, and there's a line up the middle. You can put your finger on it and go between the 2 different pictures, and it shows, you can see exactly what the differences are between that ghostly one and the really sparkly one. It's kind of an interesting display. It's on the BBC national site.
Yeah.
With regards to Sky News, has there been a replacement found for Alendria?
Yes, there has been.
Cool.
And let's see, what is her name? It's just give me a here. Her first name is Karina Okadal, Karina Okadal, and she's already hard at work. She doesn't have an astronomy background, but I'm quite impressed with her, and she's going to be getting an education in astronomy. And we have a kind of a board that's overseeing Sky News, and when, you know, it was kind of sleepy for a while, but we've actually been quite active, you know, meeting a couple of times a month. And for a while in the summer, we were meeting every week just to handle some of the issues and the transitions at Sky News. So yeah, Sky News is in good hands, and you know, Alendria, you know, she's got a job with the national parks. They're setting up an urban national park in Toronto, so it's quite an exciting opportunity. But anyway, I think she's still going to be contributing to Sky News, and of course, if any of us need some advice, she's agreed to you know, provide as much as she can. So.
Chris, I just had my hand up just to ask whether or not the AAS meeting in Seattle is only for professionals, or is there an amateur section or a something on the side that people can kind of go into at all if they happen to be down in Seattle?
Well, I think it's mainly for professionals.
Okay.
And it does cost to go into the event. So you know, it's quite amazing to see how many people show up. You know, from being at a couple of these meetings, I would say, you know, you know, nothing like seeing the room where they have some of the snacks and goodies in the evening presentations, and you see how many graduate students show up for that thing. So,
okay, thanks.
Chris, I knew you'd
Find a way to volunteer.
yeah.
I knew you'd have something. Did you just put that PowerPoint together while Joe was presenting? Or did you have
No.
it in the can?
Well, actually, I started putting together the PowerPoint back, back earlier in the year when I was giving the earlier talks. And but I did add this slide at the end. But like we go, I was showing these slides before in some of my earlier presentations, and I've had to, I've been asked to give presentations elsewhere. Like a couple of weeks there, the weekend before last, I was giving a talk at Manning Park in association with the Vancouver Center. So I had spiffed this up for that, although this hadn't come out yet. And I was going to say, somebody asked me, well, what happens when Hubble is no longer working? And one of the things I said was that, people here on Earth are taking, including amateurs, including people in that room, because Vancouver has some imagers too, are taking some amazing images, and, like some of those images that Joe was showing, I could tell people they were Hubble images and they'd be none the wiser. So anyway, so yes, this this presentation, yeah, it has a bit of a history to it.
Well, great. So I am now going to talk, unless, is there anybody else who's got stuff?
Randy, maybe near the end, I can talk a little bit about the SIGs.
Absolutely. Okay, I'll talk just a bit about next week. So the 7th is Monday, and then overnight, guaranteed 100% to be clear, right? We have the eclipse. And I have this bee in my bonnet to help this long time series citizen science project. There's 200 years of measurements from the eyepiece of when the Earth's umbra, the shadow, crosses different craters. And when you work out the geometry, it's not just the size of the solid Earth that is setting the umbra, it's actually larger. Fine, there's an atmosphere around the Earth, that doesn't surprise people, but the actual value is about 70 or 80 kilometers. And so it's been a big issue for a long time, but now it's even more topical because of Webb, because one one of the things that we're hoping to get out of Webb, and there's some preliminary work, is measuring planetary atmospheres by measuring the spectra change of a star as a planet occults it. And we have a proxy for that because they have this wonderful mirror just outside of the Earth's atmosphere, the Sun-Earth system. It's called the Moon. And every once in a while you get to see this. So there's more and more talk about this. There's articles that are saying all sorts of things. And I figure I want to have some skin in the game as I get working on the, what I think the answer is. Some people say it's an optical illusion. Some people say that there's very, very high clouds 80 kilometers up that are obscuring the light. Anyway, that's all preamble. Let me pull up my screen. Okay, You probably can hear my niece handing out candy. I'm outside. So when you go to this Sky and Telescope website, they compile these. These are the expected times. And they ask that people try to time these to, they say 6 seconds. I don't know why they say 6 seconds, but that they want you to be accurate to 6 seconds as you see these go. This is not very useful. So I have done this in CorelDRAW. I hope that everybody received my copy of this. I sent it out as a JPEG. But what you see, first of all, I've done it in Pacific Standard Time. Everybody remember that the clocks fall back next Sunday. So we're going to be UT -8, not UT -7 as of Sunday. So at 1:09, the umbra is going to come and hit the moon. And for people who follow the moon a lot, they're a funny choice of targets because some of them are very small. You know, Campanus, who knows Campanus? Who knows Eudoxus? Who knows Dionysius? These are not important features at the terminus. Tycho, of course, is. Grimaldi is one of the great landmarks in the this is upside down, so that's the western moon. Yeah, I have a Newtonian, so I always take pictures of the moon upside down, so south up. But you can see, and these are for the middle of it. So Grimaldi's kind of big, but somewhere around 1:10 in the morning, the shadow will start here. 1:14, 1:20, 1:21, 1:24, 1:29, 1:33. It doesn't go that fast. I have a new app, not a new app. I got it for the last eclipse. I used it for the Uranus occultation, and I got the timing of Uranus coming out from behind the shadow. I figured I was doing it to about 3 seconds. So it's just on my Android. And have I lined it up? No, I haven't lined it up. That would be too easy. Ticking clock.
15 minutes.
Are you going to work?
10 seconds.
Can you hear that?
Twenty seconds. 30 seconds.
And then on the minute, then it says the minute. So you don't have to look at the clock while you're watching in your eyepiece. And as long as the sky is clear, it's good. So Nathan came last eclipse in May, and it was pretty cloudy, but we got a couple of timings. But we'll see how that goes. So I would love to have lots of measurements. People are doing this all over the world. There is a compilation, 200 years of these measurements in a spreadsheet that you can play with, up to something like 2016. I'm not sure if I can get access to more recent numbers, but again, there are some people who say that it is just the nonlinear thing in the eye, that we actually see it going down too soon and coming out too late. I'm trying to people are doing these great big major telescopes looking at spectra and trying to get timings of those from the literature. And the geometry is not rocket science, but it is actually it is rocket science. It's just working out spherical geometry and trying to get it. I have found AstroPy in Python, gives you a lot of information. It's a project in progress. David.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry, Randy. Question. Would it help if you had video timings as opposed to visual timings?
Okay, so it's a different experiment. As we all know, telescopes are different than eyeballs. I mean, cameras are different than eyeballs. I am fascinated to know those differences. Okay, so absolutely. If you want to take a look at the 200-year time series, then it's eyeball. Okay, if you want to be consistent, then, I mean, what they ask in Science and Telescope is under 12-inch aperture and you don't call it naked eye. What do you call it? Visual.
Visual. Yeah, that's what I would call it.
That being said, having a high quality video and comparing would be fascinating.
Yeah, I could certainly do that. I don't think I would do it for the full term. There's a lot of craters there, and that would be a lot of video. But I actually wouldn't mind trying both, doing a couple of visual and a couple of video.
Well, pray for clear sky.
Okay, so
And,
the second question, Randy, how accurate does the timing have to be?
in Sky and Telescope, they say 6 seconds. I don't know
Oh,
why they
well,
say
that's pretty crude.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can certainly do that. Yeah, interesting.
I think just by celestial coincidences, the size of the Earth scales to about 1 kilometer per second. So every second the umbra comes sooner, the Earth is the Earth's diameter is 1 kilometer larger. I mean, it depends. It depends on the geometry, right? But it's on that order. So
Good.
I guess if we are only, you take a look at the noise, they're noisy data, but I love noisy data. That's my gig. Getting signal out of noise is totally, that's what I do in my work, and that's what I do in my hobby. Noisy data is me.
Yeah, sounds good.
Anybody else going to stay up all night and watch the eclipse? It's nicely oriented for us. It'll be, just west of south. For my porch, that's just perfect.
So Randy, what day is that again?
Tuesday morning, right after Astro Cafe.
I think it runs from midnight to about almost 5 in the morning.
Yeah,
Something like
but
that.
the umbra is from 109 to 449. Yes. So there's a penumbra before that. Penumbra, I don't care about. It's boring.
I mean, given the time of year, we may not even get full coverage anyways. Like it'll just be maybe kind of spotty. We might see some, not see others.
Yeah. Sunny, what do we see at the moon right now?
Not much tonight.
Yeah, I saw it earlier, 1/4 moon, beautiful.
Oh, it's
Well,
a quarter moon, but it's fuzzy.
Yeah, very fuzzy. I tried to show the trick-or-treaters, but I didn't really have a lot to show. I managed to show a very dim Jupiter, but that was about it.
So would you like to see the official weather forecast for that day?
Oh, Reg, you're in charge.
Okay, I'll try and share my screen if you allow me. And I'll just do
Might be
this.
getting a bit low.
This is the output from one of the US numerical models that was initialized this morning. And at that time, you might remember we had a fairly major cold front go through our area, a lot of heavy rain ended, and we had kind of showery conditions in the wake of this thing. I'm just going to step through this. This is valid for 18 Zulu, which is 10 a.m. or
11
11
until next
a.m.
week.
Our time. And I'm just going to step through it for 180 hours. So we're just going through this. And I just want to notice that we basically have, if I go back here, Vancouver Island is a little tiny thing here, but we have fairly cool air in the wake of that cold front that moved through. And but the general flow is being kind of an onshore flow. And we have another weather system hitting us on Thursday night, Friday, and it's moving through, and it's dragging a cold front down, fairly vigorous cold front down through the area on the weekend. And we're getting into a situation, now this is a long ways out, and I'm being very reckless here, where we have a low off of the Washington, Oregon coast, and that's going to draw colder air from the interior out, and that's going to be dry. And so by 5 p.m., or I guess that's 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on November 8th, if the clocks are changing, we should have cool outflow of drier air from the interior, so you may have successful viewing of that event. So,
But you're not going to put money on it.
no, not big bucks yet. No. So there you have it.
Okay, Brock just asked a question. He would think that the light would refract in at the moon, and there's no question part of the reason that we see the red moon is because the blue refracts more than the red gets through, and so that's why we see the we see the red moon under umbra. But that doesn't explain the timings. The Earth is larger than it's supposed to be, so it is supposed to be an obscuration, not a refraction, they say. What's a grin lens?
A gradient index. So you can refract light by passing it through an index, a gradient of indexes, which is what the upper atmosphere, as it goes from being vacuum to being dense, it just light passes through that and it refracts downward towards the denser. So it would basically refract light inward into more of a cone that could increase the apparent size of the planet from the kind of shadow.
Oh, that would increase, not reduce.
Yeah, it would increase. Yeah. Did you say it?
Because I've read about it where people say it's not refraction. And is it the same as refraction? Is your?
It is. Yeah,
okay.
Grin lenses refract, but they refract differently than, they don't, it's not by having a curved surface.
It's bugle
Anyway,
shape.
they the articles I have read have rejected that, but maybe they don't understand it right. You're the guy. This is you do
I'm
this stuff.
just a guy. I don't know if I'm the guy.
Okay, David, SIGs.
Yeah, SIGs. So we have a beginner SIG tomorrow night. So if you don't belong to the beginner SIG and you would like to join us tomorrow night, just let me know. I'll give you my email address. Just gonna throw that into the chat.
How many people are coming?
I don't know. There's some people out of town, but we often have about a dozen people.
Oh, fantastic.
I would think. Yeah, we certainly have the regulars. I mean, Margie's there, Lori's usually there, Bill as well. So it's quite a nice mix, like we got some fairly experienced observers. We have some educators. We have just people that just like information. So it's a good mix.
That's fantastic.
So tomorrow night, we're going to talk about clusters. I think it was suggested that we do globulars, but I thought it might be nicer if we left it a little bit open so that we include open clusters. So open and globulars we'll talk about tomorrow night. That's tomorrow night on Tuesday, 7:30. And then on Thursday, we have the electronically assisted group meeting. Now, it's been pretty light activity in that group because I can see people like to see more finished products than using an aid for observing. So it's okay. I mean, there's certainly lots of technology appearing. In fact, I thought I would add some stuff to the mix and maybe talk about harmonic drives, which I think David has already purchased one, and it seems like it's certainly the going trend, and for something that's light and relatively accurate. So I don't know. I'd like to hear a discussion about that. There's a couple of new products out. Pegasus has a new harmonic drive called Nix, which I'd be interested in hearing comments about. I think, David, you bought the Optech version, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be glad to hear any comments that people might have. I've been just been doing reading actually so far, but it looks very promising. Something light, something relatively accurate, right?
So is that the beginners? The beginners?
No, the EAA SIG. We're going to talk about
I'll
it.
be at the EA, so I can
Yep.
talk about it. Sure.
Yeah, that would be great if we could maybe start a little conversation about that, because there's a lot of new products too. Like Pegasus has another product out that I'd like to talk about as well. It's
I have
an
an EAA
environmental.
question.
Sure. Go ahead, Randy.
For a night like tonight, assuming that we had the clear sky, what is more effective for outreach? Having a screen and having it so that lots of people can look at it, or is just the impact of looking in the eyepiece so wow that
Well,
works
I think it's both. Like I've been, even though I've been very dedicated to electronic imagery, I, of late in this last couple of years, have been fascinated with visual observing, and I've done a fair bit of it now at ungodly hours as well. But it's enchanting. I don't know. I mean, I've talked to you, Randy, about this before, but like in the early morning hours, like watching the moon and stuff like that, and watching the sunrise has been kind of some of my treasured moments from this summer. So yeah.
Bill, you're the most experienced outreach with the telescope in the crowd. Would you ever use a screen, or are you going to stay just bringing in your telescope?
Did you say me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just going to chime in with my experience from a week ago in Jasper, where we were in the park in the middle of the city, and the sky was awful. But I set up my scope anyway because I could see Jupiter just barely peeking through the clouds, and we could see a star way up. We were trying to figure out what it was. And so I went and got my 4-inch refractor and set it up. And there were all sorts of people there with their screens, their iPads and their laptops, and they were showing people pictures of the things that they had taken. And as the sky, and they were never looking up, and they had set up because there was thoughts that it would rain, so they'd set up on a stage under a canopy, so they couldn't even point their scopes to the sky anyway. And as the sky got better and better and better, and then some of them realized this and moved their scopes out, but they kept just showing the same things. And some of them had screens that they had cameras hooked up and all that. But I had probably the smallest scope there, but I was showing them Jupiter and Saturn. And then I was started because, well, I saw that over there. Okay, so have you seen a globular cluster? And then I tracked down M15 and even though it was small images and all that, they were most people were like, wow, that they were actually seeing it, because they were seeing it as opposed to like on a screen. So there's both of it. It does have its value, but yeah, I don't know.
I think it's,
seem to think that every,
Bill, I think the greatest value it has is for those objects that are really dim, that a regular scope can't handle well. I think it's good for that. Also, you have to be, in EAA, you really have to be able to accept non-publishable kind of data, so to speak. Like, we're not going to be producing deep sky images from doing EAA, but we might be able to see the structure of galaxies, which we maybe really too light. I mean, not visible enough in a scope. So for that, I think it's good.
I was showing M31.
But it's not for finished product. But certainly not for finished
I
product.
showed the Ring Nebula.
Yeah.
Some double stars, the double, and it was like, this was all from the middle of quite a brightly lit park.
Yeah, you know, my other observation about visual is it may not have the literal bang of an electronic image, but as Bill says, there's something captivating about looking through an instrument, like looking through binoculars, whatever, right? And looking at something and kind of maybe putting the instrument down and looking up and then trying to make this relationship between what you could potentially see, with your naked eye, and then using some amplification through optics, right? There's something about that that is unique.
Yeah, they were actually happy to actually see it.
Yeah. Oh, I see some rebuttals going on here. Potential rebuttals.
Go. Do you want to go first, John?
John?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I just wanted to tell you that living in this place I'm in now, which is a senior's place, I have set up a telescope to show people stuff visually. And that followed, I've given a few talks here too, where I've shown them, pretty pictures and so on. And it was very interesting. I mean, the people who came out and had a look through the eyepiece inevitably had this kind of comment that some others have been saying, that, they just say, it's amazing. They said, looking at the pictures doesn't do quite the same thing for me. Now, this was with Jupiter and Saturn. I don't know how true that is when you're looking at a faint fuzzy that you can barely see. But certainly I got a lot of very positive feedback from setting up the telescope. And I think that's always been true up at the Hill too, for the Saturday nights when people can look through a telescope. They get quite interested in it.
Dave.
Well, I would just add that part of the issue is the setup time is much longer. And if you're in the middle of summer where everyone's gathering around, anxious for the sun to go down, then you've got a bit more setup time. So that's part of the issue. The other thing is, if you're going to show somebody something, you have to have a fast scope, because it has to be f5 or better, because it just takes too long to gather the photons to make an image with a longer scope, and people aren't going to wait half an hour for you to show them an image. So I think that was my key lesson of showing people. I haven't set up imaging at the Hill, but that's when I've shown friends and stuff. That's the drawback there.
Yeah. Gary, then David.
I have the definitive answer. My wife, my harshest critic, said she thinks looking at an image I processed and I'm really proud of is about as interesting as watching grass grow. But I actually get her up at on the visual scope looking at the moon. She said, wow, this is actually pretty interesting. And if you let her steer the scope around, it's even better. So that kind of settles it for me.
You know what? That sounds pretty definitive.
Yeah, I've had the same experience in the years that I've done sidewalk astronomy, for want of a better word. Particularly young people who are used to looking at a computer monitor and finding all sorts of stuff on the web. It's different for them when they get the photon in the eye. I don't know whether it's a physical thing or a mental thing, but you get a completely different reaction from showing the picture as opposed to showing them the real thing.
Gary, I'm going to actually refute with another story. Eva, she says very often that she just can't see anything in the eyepiece. And so when I do put a camera on and show, I only do moon and planets, but she finds that much more satisfying. But she actually has eyesight that is not amenable to the eyepiece. Mr.
Yeah,
Lee.
you gotta have the right gear, no doubt about it. Significant eye relief is the number one thing, and a wide view too. I showed one guy the Pleiades, and he says, "Are we looking at it yet?" No, well, yeah, we are, but so he says, "I think I like the moon better." So there you go.
So here's my comment about EAA. I thought of it as being a group activity, but I'm not sure if I'm so convinced about that now. I like it for myself because, I will start off looking at something visually, or there's something that's beyond the capabilities of my telescope, right? So then I would add an electronic sensor, and I'm okay with waiting because, I'm there for a purpose. That you might be hard to convince a person off the street to wait the kind of time that I might personally wait. So that's basically my comment. I think visual astronomy has a much easier sell because there's an instant relationship between at least primitive optics and our naked eye observing. Whereas you add a lot of bells and whistles, you add a lot of electronics, people will think differently of it. Like they would think, I don't know, what is that? Is that a picture you're showing me? Or are we really seeing something, right?
Yeah, everybody.
So
has
I think that's the
pictures.
difference. That
We're
is the difference.
swamped by the Hubble pictures, and if you're actually getting the photons in the eyes, that's a different thing.
I think there's room for all sorts of observation. It's a matter of personal choice, and I think I would mix it up. If I were you, I wouldn't sit in one camp or the other. There's so much to enjoy in all the camps.
David, that is such a good way to end. Look at that. We did more than an hour. I thought this was going to be a half hour tonight. Super discussions, really interesting science, and I hope there was enough candy being handed out. And thank you very much. Thank you, as always,
Can
to
I do
Joe.
One thing.
Oh,
Lori,
Bill.
did you get my link to the
Volunteers.
Yes.
Yes.
It's an easy thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to do 8 hours.
That's nothing.
Yeah. That's just
Can you speak to that?
one day.
No, but-
I was just asking, I was going to ask Chris Pearce, and if Alex is on, I don't know whether I see Alex here. Do we know anything more about UVic at all?
Nothing that I've heard. No, they were supposed to be making a new decision or a revised decision for the end of September, but apparently nothing so far.
Too bad.
And Gary?
Lori, do we need a RASC table up at the upcoming star party?
Yes, there'll be a star party on the 26th of November and the 17th of December.
Okay.
Well, those are the two that are now, and then we have one in January, February, March, and then April, the end of April is Astronomy Day. So we'll be kind of back doing all that again. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I was just about to thank Joe Carr for the
Thank you.
recording and the wonderful transcript that we get every week. It certainly was wonderful while I was during my travels. I could still keep with this wonderful community that I like so much. And it's great to be back virtually or in person. We'll see you on the 7th, one way or another, Fairfield or online. Okay? Bye.
Bye.